So, I am a mental health intervention and services researcher. And why I got excited and passionate about that line of work is because there is, just in my opinion, unacceptable access disparity in rural America. So, rural folks are just as likely as their urban counterparts to experience mental illness throughout their lifetime. However, they are significantly less likely to have access to mental health treatment. I mean, it's really bad. So I just want to give you a couple of examples. So 75% of rural counties in the US don't have a practicing psychiatrist at all. And about 58% don't have a practicing clinical social worker or psychologist in their county. So I've had a couple of different opportunities to engage with communities, both in Pennsylvania, where I grew up, and here in Michigan, while being at the School of Social Work. And what I found through both of those experiences is that, again, typically community mental health clinics are the only game in town in rural areas, but the folks there are very cognizant of the access disparities, and they want to be able to serve as many people as possible, but there's significant funding constraints. So I was able to engage with community health centers previously to work on ways to better engage clients that they had and make some systematic changes that could, or structural changes within their organization that could improve their ability to serve clients, get clients in a more timely fashion, offer different types of services to increase engagement. For example, I worked with a community mental health center in Southwest PA in a rural area to be able to implement structural family therapy. And what was nice about the family therapy is that you can see the child and the parents at once. And often there's co-occurring mental health needs, but in rural areas there's so many barriers to getting care. Not only is it, the limited availability of providers and the insurance challenges, cost challenges, transportation challenges, but there's also significant acceptability challenges. So folks in rural areas, as many other groups do, have high rates of stigma, high levels of stigma around mental health and accessing treatment. What's unique in rural areas is the fact that there's a phenomenon called the lack of anonymity. So even though there aren't a lot of people living in these areas, so it's a low population density, people know each other, right? So the communities are close knit. And a lot of folks that I spoke to when working with the community mental health center were really hesitant to have their car in the parking lot because they would say to me, well, I go in there and I know the administrative person, or I know the person at the front desk, and then they're going to go tell, my other friend or my cousin that I have this problem. And so there was this a real concern around that, and it kept a lot of people from getting care. And what was interesting when we implemented the family therapy approach is a lot of adults would kind of put that aside when they had a need for their child, right? So they wanted to be able to address that need for their child no matter what. And maybe it was a little bit easier to even, kind of deal with the stigma if they were able to tell folks, yep, my car was there, my child's having, some difficulties, I'm getting my child help. It's a little bit different than kind of admitting your own kind of personal need. And in rural areas, it's often considered a weakness. So, you may know there's really a high value on independence and self-reliance in rural communities. And that plays into it as well. Kind of really wanting to be able to solve your problem within your own small network of friends and family, and not wanting to have to go outside that and kind of air your dirty laundry. And that type of thing. So I learned a lot from engaging just with folks in the community and the community mental health center about some strategies that might be helpful. But at the end of the day, I found myself wanting to have other options for these rural folks. So I knew that there were going to be some people that were going to be able to be served by community mental health, maybe had access to be able to travel to specialty providers outside of their county, or, kind of across their county, things of that nature. But there were going to remain a large group of underserved folks that didn't have a lot of options. And so for me, it became important to engage with communities about how we could build their internal capacity. So what resources do they already have? Not existing mental health resources, but, community resources or community strengths, and how could we maybe build upon those to be able to deliver mental health treatment in kind of an innovative new way to these rural areas. And what I ended up really finding a connection with was the church community in rural areas. And so people are comfortable with it. And in fact, there was a really interesting study that caught my attention when I was starting to think about this work. It was conducted in the southeastern United States in the mid 90s, and some researchers were asking some rural folks about where would they go for mental health treatment, or where would they be comfortable going. And 68% of their white respondents, and I believe it was like 93% of their African American respondents, indicated that they would go to their church for mental health services if they were available there. So that was pretty striking to me. So I've been recently engaged with a rural community here in Michigan, a little bit southwest of Ann Arbor, where the School of Social Work is. And I've been talking to clergy there, and other providers, human service providers there, just about, what their thoughts would be about this. Is this something that could work for them? Would there be a way that we could create a mental health intervention that would fit within the existing, framework of a church setting that might have, a weekly study, and maybe a Bible study, or a group that's working on, physical fitness or otherwise. And it really has seemed to gain some traction. And, so for me, it's thinking about those resources within the community that are not traditionally thought of as mental health settings that might be able to help close this access disparity in rural areas. And really the core reason that I'm so passionate about this is that I want people in rural areas that have mental health needs to be able to get access to those services and improve their lives.